Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morgan, off the Motor City Madmouth. Have a great crew lined up, but before we go any further, I do want to pass on some unfortunate news. One of my favorite guests on our platform, Mark Littell, passed away on Monday, Labor Day, due to complications of heart surgery. So Mark Littell has appeared on quite a few of our shows. Rick, you had a chance to interact with him. He's certainly a guy that not only did pretty well on the field, but what he did with his Nutty Buddy and all his books is unreal. So we lost Big Country, and I used to do a lot of messaging back and forth to Mark, and we became really good friends. Wish I would have met him, but having him on the shows, and now I'll always have memories of the fine shows that we did. So rest in peace, Mark Littell. Big Country, to me, you're a Hall of Famer in my mind, and that's why you're always going to be on the front page of the South Florida Tribune with our show that I had done with Miami Marlins longtime writer Joe Frazzaro. So I had him on. Mark, you're going to be missed. So that said, let me introduce the crew. We're Rick Curdy, back as usual on Tuesday night. Welcome back, Rick.
Thanks, Scott.
Eric Katz, Mr. Concrete Dump. You're going to have to let David Hodges know, what Concrete Dump is. All right.
Olympic Stadium in Montreal.
Gotcha. I saw the name on right under your, right there on the bottom of your window.
And I firmly believe Canada does not deserve Major League Baseball.
Well, we're not going to win any. We're definitely not going to win any fans because you think that way, even though Toronto Blue Jays have a good, successful fan base. And the Montreal Expos, unfortunately, fell victim to the 94 strike, and they never recovered from that. But Mr. Concrete Dump, we all know that Mr. Opinion is Rick Curdy. That's you've been that for as long as I've known this guy. And David Hodges, why don't you give everybody who haven't been on in a while a little bit of an overview of what you do in the sports world?
Oh, yeah. How you doing, guys? Scott, thank you so much for having me back on the show. Got a bit of a background in sports radio. I've been working in radio for a while, but I always enjoy, getting on any show whenever I can. I've got a background in baseball broadcasting. I was the voice of the Forest City Owls of the Coastal Plain League in the summer of 2013. I've done a lot of high school football broadcasting as well. The Belmont South Point Red Raiders in Belmont, North Carolina. I was privileged to call those games for 7 years, I believe it was. I got to call 2 state championships, lost the first one, won the second one. So that was a privilege and a pleasure. And right now, I'm also the current official scorekeeper for the Gastonia Honey Hunters of the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball. And of course, Mr. Curdy, I know you know them quite well, and a lot of the team. And it's always fun when it's game day. And the team won the South Division for the first half. So we are playoff bound. September 20th, I believe, is the first day, or is the opening day of the playoffs. So we still lead the South Division in the second half. So we will see if we will have a wild card opponent or if somebody will leapfrog us, and we will be facing them in the playoffs. But a little bit of background on me, and like I said, I met Scott a couple of years ago at the National Sports Media Association Awards Banquet in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Of course, that was pre-COVID, the good old days, where we could all, get together and, just talk sports. We shared a table with a couple other people, and we've been, as we said in the pre-show, we've been good buddies ever since.
No question about it. I like surrounding myself with people that, it's all part of networking, and it was just really great that we had a chance to meet the night of the awards ceremony that we sat at the same table. So it's really been really good as well. One other thing I want to mention, I mentioned last night, is I did lose an aunt over the weekend. Her name was Betty Lushman, who died of brain cancer, 85. So rest in peace, Aunt Betty. All right. Before we get started, folks, subscribe to the South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel or visit www.southfloridatribune.com and follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. To advertise, call 954-304-4941. The audio portion of the show can be heard on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, and Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. So been pretty interesting few days losing my Aunt Betty. She battled cancer an awful lot. and survived it. But when an 85-year-old gets hit with brain cancer, I don't care how strong you are, at some point or another, you're going to succumb to the disease. And Mark Littell, what can I say? Two classic individuals. So let me give you an overview of what we're going to talk about today. The episode's called Chasing Milestones. And it's safe to say that Albert Pujols and Aaron Judge are at the corner of all of that. So I'm going to give the crew an opportunity to talk about that, talk about the Yankees' difficult month of August. And then we're going to come up with a very unique topic tonight about minor leagues voting for unionization, which is pretty interesting. Having worked in the minor leagues before, I can certainly appreciate where they're coming from, and we'll have an opinion. And then the crew's going to have a chance to say what they come up with their own idea at the very end before we close out the show. So, you guys ready to get going?
Yeah.
Do it.
All right. Well, we're going to lead off, and yes, baseball shows are appropriate with adjectives like lead off. Okay. With Albert Pujols, chased for 700 home runs, got 5 home runs to go, 28. Rick Curdy.
Yes, I do. I'll be happy when he passes a fraud for one thing, and he deserves it. This guy's a class act. He's Mr. Consistency, beloved wherever he went. Of course, I'm happy he's back in St. Louis. He's beloved over there, and he is probably playing the best baseball he has since probably leaving the Cardinals. Unfortunately, he was hurt a lot with the Angels, so he's rejuvenated. He's happy. He says this is his last year. He doesn't care if he doesn't have 700. He said this is it. So if this is it, I hope he gets 700. That'll be great, and I think he will do it.
Eric Katz.
I think Albert Pujols will do it. I mean, he's clearly it'd be the cherry on top to what has been a fantastic career. Multiple All-Star games, Rookie of the Year award, multiple MVP awards, and I believe he's won the World Series, twice. And so it would be the cherry on top for what has been a Hall of Fame career. I mean, what more can you say? It's what better way to do it than where it all began, which was in St. Louis.
David.
Yeah, I agree with Eric and Rick. It's it's just kind of the culmination of such an iconic career, one of the best to ever play this game, and we are so lucky that we have we're alive in this generation to watch him play. I even remember watching or actually listening to old St. Louis Cardinal spring training games and hearing the announcers talk about this new kid who's causing waves in the Cardinal organization. His name's Albert Pujols. And now he's on the cusp of hitting 700 home runs. And as Rick said, it's wonderful he's back in St. Louis and not back on, say, a one-day contract or bouncing around the league. With people or teams trying to get the last ounces of baseball he's got in him. He's chasing a milestone. He's back where it all began. Just a great feel-good story. And as like I said, we're all very lucky to be able to follow along and watch him chase this milestone.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is you guys are on target with everything. It's good that he is finishing his career with the Cardinals. And I think if he hits one or two more, don't be surprised if there's 28 games that Pujols is going to get at least 20, 25 of them, that the Cardinals are going to want to see him get that milestone. I don't know, for some reason or another, I think there's a big push in terms of games to get him in, and he's getting close already. He's only a handful away. This guy can hit him in bunches. So 5, all you need, Albert, 5. Hit 700, then you'll be in the 700 club, and it's a very exclusive one. One guy doesn't belong there, but I'm not going to get into that tonight. Well, no, maybe I will. Barry Bonds, you don't belong there. Okay, but Hank Aaron, you belong there. Babe Ruth, you belong in there.
Yep.
And Albert in there. And a lot of people in the steroid era would be glad when he passes Alex Rodriguez. So,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I will.
So at least it's safe to say it's only a handful away. And yes, I'm glad that he's going to finish his career in St. Louis. He's an icon there. We all know that he's going to the Hall of Fame 5 years from now, first ballot all the way. So with that said, let's move on to the next chasing milestone subject. Aaron Judge, 54 home runs, inching closer to Roger Maris 61, and getting a big payday. So I'm going to ask a question that maybe some people will agree or disagree, and we encourage folks to agree and disagree. That's what it's all about. It's a very opinionated based show where input is greatly appreciated. But First of all, Rick, will he be able to pass Maris?
I believe so. He was on a hot start. He's cooled off a little bit, but now he's really heating up back again. And I know he's ahead of Maris right now. So I think by 2 home runs. So yeah, I think he'll get it. I would love for him to get it. 61 is the American League record. And I think he'll pass 61. I think he'll end up with like 63. So I think he'll do it. He's like Pujols. When he gets on a home run streak, he gets on a home run streak. And when he's red hot, he's red hot. So, I think he'll do it. And to me, he's undoubtedly the American League MVP, without a doubt.
David?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And, coming from a, Seattle Mariners and a Boston Red Sox fan, obviously it's, pains me a little, a New York Yankee doing so great, but, it's really good for the game. As, of course, we talk about Albert Pujols, he's chasing, his own record, obviously over in the National League, and Aaron Judge in the American League. But I believe he'll get it. I don't think he'll, obviously he doesn't want to slow down. A lot of people want to see him get the record. And I'm sure a lot of people don't, especially those Yankee fans, how sacred their records are, and of course, a new generation of a New York Yankee, is chasing that record. Obviously it's, it would be much more painful if it, were say a Boston Red Sox or a Tampa Bay Ray, that was chasing that record. But, I think he'll do it. I'll even go as far as say, I think he'll probably get to, I'll say 65 home runs for the year.
All right, Eric.
Records are made to be broken. I mean, I don't get what this whole thing is about, it's Maris's. Well, they were saying the same thing when Maris was pursuing Ruth, that it was Ruth's record, and the same can be applied. So now it's basically, we love the guy now, even though the guy was very underappreciated during his time with the Yankees. And although he wasn't like a Hall of Famer, we're basically saying the same thing now of Judge saying, it's Maris's record. The fact of the matter is records are made to be broken. The record's been there long enough, and Judge, I believe, will do it. He's at the rate he's homering, he's gonna break the record, no doubt, especially because he's got a few hitter-friendly ballparks coming up. I know I'm going to a couple of the games next week when they go to Milwaukee, where the ball travels extremely well. And then also he's playing in New York right now, where he's been homering like crazy all year long. So he'll definitely break the record. I don't get this whole sacred thing about the whole 61 thing. I really don't. I mean, Maris got the same thing and probably worse in New York. If you've seen the movie 61, you'll know, at least get an idea of what he went through. Right. In order to break the record that, it's Ruth, it's Maris. I mean, it's the same thing, except obviously you can't throw plastic bottles on the field whenever you feel like it anymore.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable he breaks the record, and why not? He's having a sensational season, and we know he's going to get a big payday. So, hey, Aaron Judge, if there's any Yankee capable of breaking, it's definitely him. The guy's a complete player. He really is. And I'd love to see him re-sign with the Yankees and be one of those rare commodities where you start and finish your career with one organization. And hopefully he gets a deal done before it's all said and done. So I guess I have to ask the most obvious question on the planet. Okay. And this is where I like when people agree or disagree. Should it have an asterisk next to it the same way that Roger Maris did? Rick?
No, I think that, the record, like Maris said, was most home runs in a season, not most home runs in less games, because Babe Ruth did it in less games. And, Maris went through hell when he was going through that record. His hair was falling out. He was getting death threats. I mean, he said it was the most miserable experience in his baseball career because it was the sacred Babe Ruth's record. And that thing had an asterisk for so many years, and they finally got rid of it. And why should Aaron Judge get an asterisk as well? What difference does it make? It's the record for most home runs in a season. I'm not a Yankee fan. I've been on here bashing Aaron Judge. I always have fun with him, but this is a legit record, and I'm happy he's breaking it. And, he's never been accused of PEDs, which is my big question. He's not associated with PEDs. So hey, you know what? You're doing it without PEDs and you're doing it during a regular season. I am fine with him breaking the record and no asterisk for me.
I mean, the asterisk, it was dumb when they did it to Maris, and it would be even dumber now in the age of social media, which, Maris did it in 162. Judge will do it in 162. It's not like we're not going to get technical here with shortest amount of time there or longest amount of time there. 61 home runs is 61 home runs, no matter what you put next to it. I'm sure we were saying the same thing when McGuire and Sosa began their assault on the record. And so, I mean, say what you want about the steroids. I will say this, though. Y'all were enjoying it that summer when they were both homering at a rate unseen. I mean, you can go ahead and crucify them now, but back then you were bowing down to them like they were gods.
We were deceived.
Well, and don't let me also add to your point, Eric. Sosa McGuire saved the game of baseball after the 94. And so with that said, I'm going to turn it over to you, Dave Hodges. Asterisk, and then we'll feed off of what Eric just talked about.
I agree with Eric and Rick. No, there's no asterisk here. There are going to be sports pundits and lifelong fans. They're going to play semantics. Say, well, yeah, he deserves an asterisk, or others like the rest of us say, no, he doesn't. Okay, well, but then let me ask you one question. Raphael Palmeiro, he was there on Capitol Hill. They left him in so he could get to 500 home runs. Then it came out that he was on PEDs.
Right.
Is there an asterisk next to Raphael Palmeiro? I mean, he probably will never get into the Hall of Fame. But obviously, like I said, coming out that he was on the juice, and they let him just reach that milestone. But no, I mean, 162 is 162. It's a full season. Obviously, what Maris went through. To reference 61 again, like it was mentioned a little bit ago. When I watched the movie, to me that was a lot of people that either saw Babe Ruth play or had parents that saw Babe Ruth play, and how much of an iconic figure he was then, and is today, and will forever be in the game of baseball. I can only assume because it was closer to the time of Ruth that people were going to say, well, this record is sacred and we're going to do everything we can, to keep Roger Maris from breaking it. There's no asterisk involved. He's on a tear. Obviously, the fan base from, the 60s, sorry to sound so macabre, they're probably not around anymore, or the ones that, old, older men or women that saw Ruth play, or as I mentioned, they had, parents that saw Ruth play, but no, it's, a new generation of Yankees fans. Judge does not deserve an asterisk next to his name. And I really hope they don't put one next to his name. Again, that's coming from a Seattle Mariner and Boston Red Sox fan. There will be no justice in the game of baseball if they put an asterisk next to his name. And if they're going to do that, then why not put an asterisk next to any, find any reason to put an asterisk? Are you going to put an asterisk next to Albert Pujols?
Right.
I mean, there's going to be people out there that are going to dig deep enough, to say, well, he got 8 speeding tickets and, all these other, guys, had none, but no, there should be no asterisk next to Aaron Judge's name, if he breaks the record.
Yeah, I agree. No asterisk. But you know what? I want to go back to what Eric said, though. And that's something you didn't have back in the 60s, social media. Well, can you imagine the backlash in social media if they even attempted to do something that boneheaded?
All they had to worry about was the newspapers back then.
Right. The newspapers, radio, and a little bit of TV. Not what we have nowadays.
It wasn't the news.
Eric, stick to the good point you made and quit while you're ahead. Okay, that's all. Stick to the good point, Eric, and while you're ahead. I'm backing you. You understand?
Yeah.
Okay. I got to let everybody know, Eric is my kid. Okay. We may not have the same last name, but there is a father-son connection here. Okay. But Eric's totally right. Social media will crucify anybody daring to do something that stupid. So we'll continue with the Bronx Bombers theme. New York Yankees entered August with the American League's best record, an 11.5 game lead in the AL East, but went 10-18 during the month of August with a -12 differential, is what we ended up seeing there. And they currently lead Tampa Bay by 5 games. Their worst month ever was when they went 9-19 in September of 1991. Okay, Eric, I know you're a big Yankees fan. How do you digest what I'm saying? An awful month in August, and now the Rays are in it, and this is a little bit more interesting. I would really doubt whether they're going to get home field anyways throughout it, but there's still another month of baseball. So, Eric, you're going to lead this one here for a moment. Let's talk about the Yankees month of August. How bad was it, and what cost them the World Series?
I mean, first off, you can't really say it cost them any World Series because they still gotta the playing field in October is even, so you still have to go in there and compete. I mean, remember the Braves were slumping along prior to them going on a tear, and then they ultimately go to the World Series last year. So really, them costing them a World Series is meaningless right now until they go to October because anybody can get hot in October at the right time. And then also part of it was this team just got eaten alive by injuries, and their bullpen just got eaten too. And that was one issue with that. And at one point, Stanton went down at an inconvenient time. Rizzo went down, so all that really left was Judge in there, and then the entire lineup decided to go into a collective slump. And they had some problems there. Although it had some high points with them being able to sweep the Mets in the Bronx. But again, the bullpen really got messy just because of all the injuries and everything like that. A big part of it was injuries, and also the lineup went into a collective slump.
Yeah, I don't care if you're the Detroit Tigers or the Miami Marlins, the New York Yankees. 162 games each year, you're going to endure a lot of injuries. I'm actually writing a story on the Miami Marlins that'll appear in the South Florida Tribune, I believe, probably tomorrow. And we talk about how the Marlins have really been hammered with injuries. And when you lose Jazz Chisholm and you as one of your primary players and a myriad of other players are out there, I don't care how good you are, injuries will ultimately wear you out. So good point. I'll get to my thoughts in a moment. Rick, what do you think, though? Does the month of August a catastrophic one for the Yankees?
Well, they're lucky they got off to that red hot start because August has not been good. September's a little dicey right now, but like Eric said, they have had injuries, but they just the pitching stunk, the bullpen stunk, the hitting went to a slump. Thank God for Judge because he's been pretty much their whole offense for over a month. So, it's good that they got into this hot start, but, I've already heard the rumblings of Aaron Boone and maybe Brian Cashman not coming back if they do have a total collapse. So we'll see what happens in September. August, they just need to forget about it. They just need to get healthy, get back on track, and just start playing baseball again. But I think right now, I think it's just the injuries have caught up to them, and it's getting close, but I think they'll win it, the division. I think they got home field advantage. I think they'll be fine. But if they can just play like 500 baseball this whole time, and hopefully Tampa Bay can not get red hot, they'll be fine. So they just gotta get those injuries together. And one thing, don't get any tattoos. Apparently, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I know you're going with the Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah, don't get no tattoos out there.
I was waiting for you to bring that one up. I should point out Andrew Benintendi, I believe, is out for the year too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's out too.
And they lost in Charlie Stanton for a period of time. So
they did.
You can lay all the criticism on Aaron Boone all you want, and for that matter, people want to criticize Don Mattingly for trying to make a lot out of nothing. That's fine, but those individuals that criticize without knowing the information, I think you might want to think a little bit deeper before you go too public with it, because you're not in a clubhouse. You're not filling out the lineup card. You don't have to make all these changes, trying to make the best you can to get to a marathon, which is why I've always thought that the World Series is one of the toughest championships to win, but that's beside the point. David, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. This time of year, in baseball, a lot of guys are going to, kind of start to break down. It's coming to the end of the season, and there's going to be slumps. that are going to happen just, for any team. And, like we talked about, my Gastonia Honey Hunters are, kind of, struggling to, eke out a couple of wins here and there. And, and like, a lot of teams, the bullpen has done it, but, I don't think it'll spell disaster for the Yankees. When teams get into the playoffs, no matter what sport, it's always, described as a clean slate, and, there's just teams that they just perform, in the playoffs. And, the Yankees are, obviously yearly they're expected to make it, just because of, the pedigree that they have. And really, you can almost basically thank Judge, for maybe keeping, people's minds off their, the team's troubles. Because obviously everybody, obviously when they're at home, and I'm sure, and, when they're on the road too, because, Yankees fans are universal. People are going to see him, hit a home run to say, hey, I was there. I saw him hit number 57, number 58, number 59. Of course, everybody, wants to be there when he hits 61. So, I think they'll overcome it. They'll, a lot of teams, again, this time of year, they'll limp into the playoffs. They, might need a players only meeting, obviously like, Chicago Cubs did, in the World Series of 2016, where they say, hey, we've got to get it together. We've got to buckle down. We have got to focus. Yes, we've been decimated by injuries to some of the big bats. Obviously, they traded for Andrew Benintendi, getting him from Kansas City. And, that's always tough. You trade for somebody and then, then boom, this happens and, they're out for the year. But, I think they'll pull it together. And, I believe they'll have a decent run in October. Can they get to the World Series? Jury's still out with me on that. But I firmly believe that, they will. They'll pull it together, and I think they'll get as far as at least the American League Championship Series. I'll put them there.
All right, I want to add a couple of points on that. We have a very different subject I want to get to. Number one, the New York Yankees should be thankful that George Steinbrenner isn't the big bad boss breathing down their throats, or who knows what would happen out there. We know that George Steinbrenner certainly had a very competitive spirit, wasn't afraid to say what he had to do. And when everybody, and I met Steinbrenner one or a couple of times. Nice guy, good, astute businessman. But, he'd be huffing and puffing and blowing that house down. And number two, they should be thankful they have Hal Steinbrenner to make sure that things don't really get out of control in terms of it being the Bronx Zoo that everybody points it out to be. Mm-hmm. But I do believe the Yankees will work through it. They have two things they have to be concerned about, though. Number one, the Tampa Bay Rays are surging. Okay, and this past weekend, Tampa Bay ended up beating the Yankees 2-3 over at the Trop. And Tampa Bay was a winner at the gate because the first game drew 17,000, the second one drew 21,000, and the third was 25,000. And one of them was a 9-0 Tampa Bay Ray wins. Another one was a 2-1. And of course, the Yankees and Judge got a pair of home runs that weekend. But the biggest thing the Yankees seem to be fearing is the Houston Astros. They seem to have their number. I'd worry more about the Astros. I worry about anything until they prove they can get past the Astros. So that'll be the thing we'll monitor down the line. So just a few things out there. All right, last subject I want to talk about tonight, and then you guys are going to have an opportunity to say what you want. And you'll have what we call our parting shots version of the program where you get to talk about whatever you want. One subject per person. Is over half of minor leaguers have voted for unionization. Now, David, you're working with Gastonia Honey Hunters. Mm-hmm. I know they're private independent. I've worked in minor league ball for a while. And I've always thought the way it's been in the past, if you're in the minor leagues, okay, you're not going to get paid a lot of money, and you're making that sacrifice to go ahead and earn less money to get your chance at the big money. That's how it's always been. That doesn't mean that's just the past. Now, obviously, welcome to 2022, and now we're talking about the subject. So, you know what, David? I'm going to lead off with you on this one. Okay. What are your thoughts about unionization in minor league baseball?
Well, I can't say I'd be for or against it. I know the COVID-19 pandemic, it hit the minor leagues so hard. There was so much restructuring. Big league clubs basically came together, or the brass for each big league club came together and said, hey, we're going to have to, kind of rethink this, reshuffle the deck, so to speak. Like you said, they're playing in the minors to get to the majors.
Right.
And, there's, obviously, there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to, or players that are going to push back, against it, maybe more for it than will be against it. But, I am interested to see, how it will play out. I'm sure, obviously there's a lot of guys, who don't want to, risk anything, they're, say, excelling at one level or about to be promoted to the next. The last thing they're going to want to do is, do anything that's going to jeopardize that. So, I mean, there's going to be, positive points about it and negative points about it. But, again, kind of like, last, like I was saying with the Yankees, for me, the jury's kind of still out on this one. And, it's one, you'll just kind of have to sit back and, see how it's going to play out. And, it'll be interesting to watch. I can tell you that much right there.
Eric, what are your thoughts about it?
I think that, when you look at minor league baseball, yeah, you don't make a lot of money. I mean, if you watch the movie The Rookie, you just see how bad some of these guys have it, but, I think it's a good thing because the conditions in minor league baseball, although much improved over the years, I think that, baseball could be doing a little more for it. Granted that the minor league now, you don't have to, the climb isn't as steep as it once was to get to the majors, because now some of these guys aren't even going to the minor leagues anymore and playing like all year. That used to be, I think the last guy to do that was John Olerud, or I think Lyle Overbay, if I remember, one of the two guys on the Toronto Blue Jays bypassed the minors to go and play in the majors immediately. But I think it's a good thing. I think, yeah, you're not going to, I don't think you're not going to make a lot of money. I think that kind of incents them to work and do all that. But, I think it's a good thing. I mean, the conditions, although improved, I think baseball could do more.
Rick?
Yeah, I've been in favor of this for a while. A lot of people just assume that, when they hear Bryce Harper's contract and like, oh, he signed a $10 million, they think that all these minor leaguers make all this money. And the truth of it is they don't make a lot of money at all. And so a lot of them have part-time jobs, after they're done. A lot of them are in the minors for years and years and years, sometimes decades. And so what's wrong with having a little bit of help, especially during COVID? Manfred wanted to get rid of all these minor league teams and retract a lot of them. That hurt. What's wrong with? There's nothing wrong with being part of a union. Being part of a union is a good thing. And these guys are part-time players, not making a whole lot of money. What's wrong with getting a little extra help, a little extra protection while you're making it to the majors? So I'm all for it. I'm actually glad that this is happening. And the ones that don't want it, of course, are the big corporations or the big owners that don't want to see this. And that's just America. That's just how it is. And so nothing wrong with it. I hope it does happen. And like I said, nothing wrong with getting a little bit of help and a little bit of protection while you're chasing your dream.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about contraction. MLB contracted 42 minor league teams.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they think that this is going to take place, or they'll contract a few more. You never know. I mean,
actually, two of the teams are in the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball. The Lexington Legends, and now the Charleston Dirty Birds.
Yeah,
who are the former West Virginia Power.
Yep.
I see firsthand that play teams that were that were jettisoned, that were victims of COVID-19.
Right. Well, you never know whether or not more contraction will take place. I do agree with you. Hey, listen, I'm from a union state, Metro Detroit, Michigan, where you have the auto industry was a union state. So, certainly it's okay to have benefits and wages or whatever. I totally get it. So I don't have a problem with it. I just wonder whether or not if they try to do that, whether MLB will try to eliminate more teams. But yeah, well, there's nothing wrong getting a little bit of help at all by any means. But I'm really curious to see how this one really plays out. I just wanted to get your initial opinions on it. All right. Well, with that said, excuse me, everybody has an opportunity to say what's on their mind. Rick Curdy, give me one topic that stood on your mind over the last 7 days.
Oh, I am just so tired of all these analytics stuff, all this war, all this, like I said, Judge hit a home run that went 110 miles an hour off his bat. And who cares, I mean, it's all about the eyeball test, what happened to batting averages, for Pete's sakes? People are hitting like 310 batting averages, and they're acting like they're Ty Cobb or something. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. With all these stats and all these meaningless things, I see these players who I've never heard of in my life who are okay players, and they're getting all these. Look at this stat. Look at this WAR he did. Look at all this. I mean, there's so much of it. I don't even know what it is. I don't even care what it is. It's like, who cares? To me, it's all about batting average, home runs, RBIs, hits. Stolen bases are just nothing anymore. It's a lost art, and so all these little analytics stuff and all this war and all this, how far he hit the home run and how it left his bat and all that stuff. Who cares? Let's just go back to the game. These guys get paid millions and millions of dollars. Please hit for a high average, a decent average, steal some bases, and please just get off all the TikTok and all this meaningless stuff and just play ball. So it's just too much nonsense right now with all this analytic war garbage that I absolutely despise.
Okay, well, I like that observation. I think you can play analytics to a point where it just gets ridiculous. Yet, unfortunately, that's the way the game is played. That's how managers are losing their job because of it. So, all right, Eric.
I think that, like to Rick's point, analytics, I mean, first of all, analytics never won a World Series. Just ask the Tampa Rays. They never won a World Series, and they used analytics they used, and it did cost them when the pitchers, I forget who it is just cruising, and then they I think it was Blake Snell, and they pull him.
Snell, yep.
Yeah, and then that gives new life to, I believe, the Dodgers, and then they go ahead and win it all from there. But I think eventually, with the way, with the shift about to be gone very soon, I think everything has a way of making its way back. When something's gone for a while, it has a way of just coming back because people realize, oh, this could be really, really cool. Which, I personally believe with the shift gone, you're going to see a lot more of that quote unquote complete hitter rather than, guys having to worry about the shift where you're going to have to where guys who aren't even home run hitters are trying to hit a home run. And so, things have a way of making their way back. I know baseball's gone through this before where they go through a power surge where guys are trying to just absolutely just hit the ball into two all the way up into the third deck of their stadiums. But things have a way of coming back. Next year, I think we'll see a lot more guys hitting for average, not just unicorns like Raphael Devers, Xander Bogaerts, Tim Anderson, even Aaron Judge. I think you'll see a lot more of those guys come back. I mean, these things have a way of just coming back around.
David?
Well, I want to take this time to kind of give a shout out to, I guess I could say, a former baseball colleague, Mr. Jesse Cole, the owner of the Savannah Bananas. He used to own the Gastonia Grizzlies when the Coastal Plain League was still here in Gastonia. They've got their own show on ESPN Plus now. A lot of, big time media outlets have covered their antics down there in Savannah. And I just recently saw that they're going to be leaving the Coastal Plain League and they're going to be taking this show on the road. I know a lot of baseball purists, probably, will not like, how they, portray the game. The guy batting on stilts, a guy with his bat on fire. If a foul ball is popped up and caught, by a fan, it's still an out. But I just, want to, again, give a congratulations, to Jesse Cole and, for, what he's done down there. And, like I said, he's going to be taking this team national. And, I'm almost like they'll kind of be just like a, almost like a baseball version of the Harlem Globetrotters, with, the antics and, going nationwide. Of course, I've not seen the schedule or, or how far they're going to go Of course, from what media outlets I've seen cover the team, fans are driving 9-12 hours. Even a family of 4 came from Ohio. And the fact that, I think he's got his seasons are sold out, all this year, all of next year. And there's pretty much a phone book thickness of a waiting list, just for people that just want season tickets. So kudos to him, for what he's done. And to Rick and Eric's point, all these, numbers and, I guess the exit velocity, to me, it's just fodder for, the ESPNs, the Fox Sports. It just kind of gives, the announcers something to fill in the gaps. So, but I mean, eventually, too many numbers is too many numbers. With people's lives, how many are, how many people are going to say, well, they're going to have to write down like, well, Aaron Judge hit a ball that, exited his bat at, as Rick said, 110 miles an hour. Isn't there a Pittsburgh Pirate who has 3 balls come off his bat over 100 miles an hour now?
O'Neal Cruz.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, it could be a funny statistic, but, again, at what is, as you guys said, at what point does it get too much? Let's, kind of get back to, the fundamentals and the basics of the game. But there are going to be, people out there that, they want to know that, they love numbers. They might work with them. Maybe that's, they're pandering to the accountants of the world, to the bankers of the world, or, myself working the car business, to the car salesman of the world, whose job is numbers.
Right. I have a couple things I want to get off my chest a little bit. Number one, I would love to see the complete game come back a lot more. For me, a 5-man rotation should easily get you 8 or 9 innings consistently. I realize it's a plethora of arm injuries. I get it. Teams have to be a lot more cautious nowadays with the average pitcher. You can see a lot of guys on the 60-day, injured list because of arm, elbow problems and all that. Still, I do believe that a complete game is worth 1 or 2 days off for the bullpens, which are getting extremely taxed. I'm glad that Don Mattingly has gotten 4 complete games out of Sandy Alcantara. I hope Sandy does win the Cy Young Award. It's still, you never know what will happen, with the Marlins and whether Sandy can muster up a couple more good quality wins to convince the voters to do it. But we need to see the complete games come back. Back in the day when you had 4 or 5-man rotations, they were common. Okay. I have no problem with the addition of the 3-hitter minimum for pitchers, because we used to see 2 or 3 pitchers go 2 or 3 innings. Not a big deal to me. And I'm sick and tired of people piling on Don Mattingly because he's having difficulties in Miami, knowing full well that he has a lot of injuries. He's a great baseball mind, a great guy to work with. And I am convinced that if Mattingly were not to be the Marlins manager next year, and we don't know, I'm not tipping my hand anywhere else, Don Mattingly will resurface somewhere, and you give him enough talent, he will win somewhere. I have learned a lot about Major League Baseball, or in baseball general, because of Don Mattingly. And, he's very candid, he's insightful, he's knowledgeable, and he's very courteous to us. And there needs to be a lot more Don Mattinglys out there. So for a lot of you folks that want to talk about his record, don't go there with me, because you do the best you can with the cards you're dealt. But yeah, I would love to see the complete game come back. And Don Mattingly, to me, it's been a pleasure to work with you. I know you will win one way or the other. He didn't become stupid coming to Miami. He did have some success out in LA. He did. And I'm convinced that he'll have success somewhere else if he's given a bigger payroll, number one, and more talent to work with. So I'm not drinking the Don Mattingly Kool-Aid that to me, this guy here is not a good manager. No way. All right, folks, subscribe to the South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel, or visit www.southfloridatribune.com and follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. To advertise, call 954-304-4941. The audio portion of the show can be heard on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And again, if you have a hard time finding the YouTube channel, just go to youtube.com, find South Florida Tribune, hit the subscribe button, and that's all there is to it. Great job by my crew tonight. Really great to have David back, and Rick and Eric. You guys are always great contributors and bring on the company line, and look forward to having Dave Hodges on more shows as we go along. And the one thing about this group here is they're the type of these three guys here know that they could be on any different show, not just 108 such as Baseball Talk. And they're that talented enough that they could go a lot of different places. So with that said, great show tonight. Glad you could join us. Dave Hodges, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm on Facebook under Dave Davino Hodges, Divino, diehard soccer fan. Been horribly addicted ever since the 2014 World Cup. Big fan of the Brazilians. That's why I gave myself a Brazilian name, because a lot of those soccer players from that part of the world always in their names with INHO. Also, I'm on Twitter at Dave Talks Sports, and you can reach me at either one. Again, Facebook, Dave Davino Hodges, and on Twitter at Dave Talks Sports.
Okay, Eric, you're next.
You can find me on Twitter at Sports Team News, where I'm tweeting everything and anything sports.
And another thing about Eric Katz is he will be doing Fire Up Wisconsin with Candy Ebling, and I know he's going to provide some great commentary and information as well. We're proud of the fact that Eric Katz has come a long way since we brought him on board. And in my opinion, Eric Katz, the potential with you is unlimited. Just I'm glad you're sticking with us and that we can be able to move you around. You're a great kid with a tremendous amount of potential, and I've seen a lot of good things out of you. But by no means you're not going to get complacent with it, because I know, like any guy in this business, your goal is to get to the highest level possible. And we're right here, and we're proud of everything you've done. All right, Rick Curdy, a.k.a. Mr. Opinion. Let him give it to him, baby.
Okay, you can find me on my website at www.charlottebats.com. We have a petition on there, and we need your signatures so we can bring Major League Baseball to Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm on Facebook at Charlotte MLB. I'm also on there, Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. And you can find me on LinkedIn under Rick Curdy. And if you have any comments or questions, my email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com.
And I should point out, Rick Curdy does a phenomenal job helping us share content on social media. So we can't thank you enough. Otherwise, I'll lose my voice if I keep trying to do it. And I don't think anybody really wants me to lose it anyways. And if I do, don't worry, I'll dribble it out one way or the other. So he does a phenomenal job. And we'll be doing a show at some point down or another in the Fire Up series where we'll focus on Charlotte, North Carolina. I have a few good people we'll bring on when the situation presents itself. But meanwhile, folks, it's 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. Please be joined by Dave Hodges, Eric Katz, and Rick Curdy. Once again, basic information. You can email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. And again, please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel so you can see what we have to offer. But meanwhile, on behalf of Rick Curdy, Eric Katz, Dave Hodges, my name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition, and we look forward to the next time. You take care, everybody, and please be careful of COVID. It's still out there making a little bit of noise, and we don't want it to make any more noise. And possible, one last shout out, rest in peace, Mark Littell. You know, to me, you'll always be a Hall of Famer in my mind, in my heart, Mark. And thanks for everything, pal. God bless. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night,
y'all.